There are many occasions when I'm asked about unnatural trance and the unnatural development of trance. And of course, if you've been working with trance and teaching it for long enough, you will experience and see many occasions when somebody is being honourable in that they're doing what they believe is right, but they're absolutely not in trance. Trance is mental mediumship, so we've got the power of the mind to contend with. Of course, you're going to have those who are deluded, as you do in any line of work, but in my experience, that's not the largest proportion of the people who have, shall we say, their trance has been questionable. Where it's been questionable and difficult and unnatural is someone who is completely convinced. Now, something that's very important to mention here is trance, although it can occur spontaneously in trance mediumship, it's something generally to get to the level where you would be demonstrating it or expressing that creative flow through you with phenomena would take a significant amount of time, because there has to be a lot of adjustment and there has to be a lot of self-knowledge and education about the power of the mind, about archetypes, rather than saying that they're spirit guides. And we all have these archetypes, and if you want to look more into that, look at Jungian philosophy and his work, Carl Gustav Jung. So in our deep subconscious, we have the capacity to connect with a wise old man, a religious being, a hero, all the architects, the wise old woman of the woods, all of these characters, the Native American Indian chief, they are archetypes of people who are wise, who are uncluttered with material gain, perhaps. And so it's very common that they become what we call our guides. But when you know the mind well enough and understand that we have within our soul this capacity to connect to, if you like, the collective unconscious, as Jung would call it, then we have the capacity to experience and know all these archetypes that are already there within our soul. So it's very possible that what we're doing is not allowing a Native American Indian chief to speak through us, but an expression of our own soul. So in order to avoid unnatural development, it's important to educate yourself and to sit and know the mind. Meditation is an excellent way to get to know your own mind and the power of transcending conscious thought, because that is one area, certainly with trance, we want to do, is transcend consciously controlling the thoughts and allowing the power and the presence to speak, to write, to draw, to heal, not us as an archetype to control it. It's very difficult to know the difference, and that is the beauty of this work, is that there's no right or wrong, there's just experience. But it becomes very unnatural when you haven't educated yourself and learned about the mind and also about trance. Let's take some examples from history, for example. Some of our great mediums, there are books where their trance teachings are actually documented. They were journaled at the time and they're in books, and I've read them, and many of you may have read them too. And certainly there are references and influences there that, for example, if we take Estelle and Red Cloud, the guide Red Cloud, a lot of what is written and relates to Bible passages, to Christian Bible passages. Even Silver Birch with Maurice Barbanel talks of the Nazarene. And there is an explanation that this is being used for the sitters because it is what they would relate to. Most of them would relate to Christian beliefs or have been raised in Christian households and would understand the Bible. But I don't buy that, and that's where I think it's unnatural. And this is where a lot of people will, probably be pulling their hair out. But this is what I believe. I do not buy it, because the divine force and power and wisdom that comes is beyond any religious context. So you wouldn't need to put it in terms of, your great leader, Jesus, or Allah says this and Muhammad says this, or, Abraham says this. You wouldn't need to do that, because the wisdom and the philosophy and the power transcends language, it transcends religion. And so it would still be understood by everyone there. And that's where I think the unnatural element can creep in. So I always say, keep a discerning mind. Also know the power of your own mind, and always ask questions. It's unnatural just to say, my guide said this, so we're going to do that. Or I'm going to talk to the team. Like they're a football squad or something. Let's get rid of all that, because we're just trying to create more confusion, really. Go to your soul, go to your God, your divine power, and also read about the mind. Read about also, which is really interesting, in many spiritualist books in the 20th century refer to studies with great mediums, some of the really great mediums, where they actually talk about multiple personality disorder. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that your average trance medium who says that their guide says this and that means you've got a multiple personality disorder, but there were many studies done, and many great mediums such as Eileen Garrett did talk about the guide, the control in trance being one and the same as the medium. So that is going to upset quite a lot of people, but we've got to educate ourselves if we're to have any credibility and understand this. And so I say, question everything. And for goodness sake, never blame your guides for a decision or hang it on that peg, my team told me not to do this. Well, no, you tell yourself, they know you've got free will. Perhaps you can find guidance through that blending and that wonderfulness. Also, with the taking your time and the unnaturalness, what many of us will see when we're teaching is people speaking way too soon. They just take a breath, close their eyes, and then just speak. And there has been no time for any blending, and so we know it's coming from them. And that will alter as the longer that they are there with their eyes closed speaking. And it's very possible the spirit may come in at some point, but you really need to take your time. Unnatural trance is really obvious, and I have before spoken of some occasions where I have experienced some quite ridiculous trance, and one I actually had to walk out of, which I swore I would never do. I'd never walk out on a person, but I couldn't be a part of it anymore. But unnatural trance, generally most trance mediums really are fighting against it being unnatural and working incredibly hard to bring this beautiful expression of mediumship to either their groups, their circles, to themselves, to the wider world. So to avoid it, learn, study, understand, experiment, but don't accept something just because someone says it's true. Accept it when you know it yourself. Accept it when you really know it yourself in your soul, that this is your truth. We all have different truths. But allow it to be natural. Take your time. Let it unfold rather than be like somebody you admire. Let it be totally you and your natural pathway. And then it will not be unnatural.